Hey everyone, this is Melissa, and I'm the talkative introvert. So for today's episode, I am joined by Jay Coleman. He is the owner, founder, and chief introverted officer of Sincerely an Introvert. The company was founded in August 2021 with two goals: to celebrate true introverted thoughts and expressions, and to create stylish clothes that introverts can relate to. A lifelong introvert, Jay rejects the stereotypes typically applied to introverts, including that they are antisocial, shy, or depressed. Through his brand, Jay seeks to showcase how introverts truly think and feel and empower introverts to be their authentic selves. So thanks, Jay, so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I am super excited to have you because you actually are not the usual Podmatch person. A lot of my guests are from Podmatch, but Jay and I actually met through Instagram.
Yeah, Insta.
Yeah. And you follow the Talkative Introvert podcast. So, and how did it start? You reached out to me, right?
Yes, I reached out to you because I enjoy and still enjoy the podcast. Like I said before, or how you talked before, I definitely like the introverted pet peeves, and I just relate to it. So yeah, I definitely love the podcast.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I was like super excited that you reached out. I don't get a whole lot of listeners reach out and DM me, but when they do, it's just so heartwarming that they find it interesting, and it's just really cool to interact with other introverts and feel that connection. And um so I did ask you if you wanted to be a guest on the podcast, and Jay, as we know right now, agreed to it.
Yes,
So this is your first podcast, right?
it's actually my second.
Oh, your
Uh,
second. What's your first
yeah,
one?
I got one in in, in between time.
Oh.
So I was actually a recent guest on the Black Introverted Moms podcast. Um,
Oh yeah.
um, uh, lo- Lovely lady by the name of Shalia Williams invited me on. So that was actually my first podcast.
How was it?
A little nervous. Again, I at that point I had never been on a podcast, but she was very good at just making me feel comfortable. And it's just a normal conversation between two introverts, which is always interesting. You never know where those talks can go. So, but it was fun. It was definitely fun.
That's cool. Well, I'm glad that you got to do that. And yeah, I'll definitely check it out. I'm not on Instagram all the time. So if you posted about it, probably didn't see it. But but now that I know, I'll check it out.
Yeah, Instagram can be a lot.
It
It
is.
it, it is particularly now that they're trying to compete with TikTok. It can seem like it just goes into overdrive. Um, I have to be on there because that's where my business is. But it's a lot.
It is. I have my personal account and the podcast account, and I try to be on there, but honestly, it's kind of exhausting because it's still a social aspect. You still
Mhm.
have to turn on your personality and try to be charming and, I don't know, approachable, or I don't know. And it is a lot. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I just try to make it fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I think yours are they're very relatable and they're pretty funny. I do like a lot of the stuff you have on your shirt. And then right now you got the extrovert whisperer.
Yeah, I had to wear this one today. Just dealing with some extroverts today. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, so figured I'd wear this. It just seems appropriate.
So how'd you come up with Extrovert Whisperer?
So it's you know, there are, in my opinion, uh, introverts that are kind of able to bridge the gap of understanding between introverts and extroverts, and they're able to better explain and really tame extroverts and kind of channel and redirect some of that energy,
Uh-huh.
and harness some of that energy so that them and other introverts aren't as drained. And that's just that's how I came up with extrovert whisperer, because you're that's kind of what you're doing. You're trying to calm them down and guide them. Just extroverts can be a lot. They don't always
Yeah.
mean to, but they can be a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I unfortunately, well, I don't know if you could call meetings social. Like, yeah, I guess it's a social aspect in like work terms because you are interacting with people. And today, if you can't tell, I'm like really exhausted because I had back to back meetings from 9:45 this morning up until 5 o'clock.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I only had like a 30-minute lunch and then had to get back to it. And yeah, it's a lot of if you facilitate meetings, it is a lot of corralling people and guiding people. And sometimes you can tell from the extroverts and the introverts, and extroverts sometimes like they take over the meeting and they talk over people, and you kind of have to like remind them to let other people talk. And it's very exhausting, definitely very exhausting. So I relate to that extrovert whisper.
Well, I can definitely relate to what you're going through. When we talked offline, I told you I worked in the public sector for about 10 years. In the last 3 years, that's kind of what I was doing, which is organizing meetings, leading meetings, and it can be a lot because it's kind of like herding cats, and then when you get those cats in a room, they're all trying to go their own separate ways. But
Yeah.
so definitely feel for you.
Thanks. So with your we did like I did touch a little bit in the intro about like your company, but do you want to explain a little bit more? Like what is it that you sell? Like what are you promoting?
Sure. So sincerely, an introvert is my brand. It is a introverted inspired clothing company that I created really to express true introvert thought. I sell t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, hoodies, and sweatshirts. And right now, if you go to my website, www.sincerelyinintrovert.com, we have about 12, 13 different designs. All of our designs are inspired by and made for introverts, including the one that I have on, the Extrovert Whisperer. And I said that it was meant to really reach out to introverts, but the longer I've kind of been in business, which hasn't been that long, but the longer I've been in business, and then the more I've grown and really uh, stepped back and thought about what I wanted my company to be, I came to realize that Sincerely an Introvert really is my love letter to introverts. And if you actually see my logo, it looks like an actual signature, which fits because every letter needs a good signature. So that's really why in what Sincerely an Introvert is. And I hope if any introverts out there can relate, visit the website, visit me on Instagram or Facebook.
I love that. I started the podcast too because of I am an introvert and very soft spoken. Obviously, you can hear me because I'm talking straight into a mic, but in real life, you could probably barely hear me because I always get people ask me, "What?" or "What did you say?" or people just completely ignore me. Um, so I think that's awesome that you started this company. And for everybody listening, like I will link everything in the show notes so you can go check it out. Check out the website and get yourself a shirt or a sweater or whatever. Have you had people like reach out about your clothing line?
I have. A lot of people definitely, they like the designs. They can relate to them. It's interesting because I get or I get comments and questions from introverts and extroverts.
Oh.
Um, yeah, and so that's pretty. It's pretty cool. Um, and that's fine because maybe there's an extrovert out there who's married to an introvert or has an introverted child or niece or nephew or somebody, and they want to, or they think that this would be a good gift for them. So I try to help them out there. Again, it is, my stuff is made for introverts, but I don't discriminate. Everybody, just no hating over here. But I do get a lot of comments and feedback and questions, all positives, so far. And I'm always uh, happy to answer a question, particularly not just about the shirts, but just about introverts in general. I'm always willing to answer a question, or I guess offer insight into the mind of an of an introvert.
I like the shirts because like it'll point out other introverts. Like if you wear it, and someone laughs is or laughs or smiles or compliment you on your shirt, it feels good because it's like, oh, someone else understands. Like someone else relates. So
Yeah, and that's also partly why I have these particular designs. I do have a habit of, in my own way, saying what other people are thinking. Um, Part of it is just because as I've gotten more comfortable being an introvert and being who I am, um, I just don't care. I'm gonna just say what's in my mind. And a lot of times I realize that that's what someone else was thinking, but just didn't feel comfortable saying.
yeah, exactly. Your your shirts are saying what we are thinking in our head. And that's cool because I mean, I don't know how you are. We could definitely get into that, but I growing up didn't know what an introvert extrovert was, but I do know that extroverted traits were very, favorable. Like in school, they want you to mingle with other kids. They think it's weird if you're alone, or they'll even talk to your parents like, you should really talk to Sue, figure out if something's wrong because she prefers to be alone or something like that. And so I've always thought maybe I was alone in being this, but there's actually a lot of introverts out there. It's just, society has taught us that you need to be charming and outgoing, and I literally put outgoing in like every resume I've had. That's
That's a
like not really true.
well, it's interesting that you mentioned school and growing up. When I was in school, but whenever we had the parent teacher conferences, you go with your parents, sit down with the teacher, and you say, well, Jay, he's a great student. He listens, he comes in on time, has all good grades, very well behaved, but he does not participate. And that's
Mm.
just that's like every teacher. He's great. He's awesome. Good grades. Does not participate. They'll even put it on my report card. Does not participate. I'm like, but I got all these A's. Like, isn't that the whole point of school? Just to, get these A's and learn. I don't got to talk for that. It's like, see, seems to me I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and being efficient. By the way, but
Yeah.
apparently, people thought otherwise. And it's funny because I realized, or rather, as I became an adult, my mom actually told me that she's actually an introvert, which
Hmm.
raised a whole other question. So I was like, so you knew what I was going through, and you sided with the teacher telling me I should speak up more, and you're an introvert too? What? So that was a that was a very interesting turn. But yeah, it's funny that you mentioned growing up in school and you know being the quiet one in school because I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah, I hated how important participation is. Like I remember classes in even in college where like participation points were a thing. You know, you got graded on making sure you raise your hand, you're a part of the discussion. And, you know, I do like to talk, obviously, you know, the talkative introvert, but I like to talk about things that are interesting or like things that interest me and talking to my friends and close knit groups, not talking to every single like having a giant discussion with a bunch of like other students who I don't really know and will probably never see again after this after this class. And so it was just so frustrating having to do that. And also oh, I was just watching an Instagram video about popcorn reading. Do you remember that in school or if you had that?
I don't think I had that. What is that?
So popcorn reading, which I hate, you would read out loud in class. And so you would read like one page or one paragraph, and then you would choose the next person to read. And people knew I didn't like reading out loud, and sometimes people would like purposely pick me, and they would like laugh because they, you know, I would look at them with like my RBF. And I just hate it. Luckily, I was a really fast reader, so I just read super fast and then picked the next person. But that was, yeah, I hated that.
Yes, I don't know if introverts have RBF. I think they have RIF, just resting introvert face.
Oh.
I know I do.
No, I really do have an RBF. I have to like I have to remember or like remind myself to smile, especially during like Zoom calls or Teams calls, because if I don't, I just look like I'm irritated or mad. And just recently I was part of someone else's podcast where they did video, and it's the first one and most likely the only one I'm going to do video, but he sent me, you know, the recording, and I'm just like, wow, I look so mad, but I'm like legit interested in what he's saying, and I'm like having a good conversation with the dude. But I don't know, hopefully he wasn't thinking that I'm like mad at him or like irritated or something, and just realized that's just how my face looks.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
So I truly do have an RBF.
But it is wild though, because people, it to me it speaks to some of the stereotypes, I guess, that people have about introverts, and that where because we have I guess have a certain face or whatever, people think that we're upset or that we're so serious, or on the other end of the spectrum, that we don't care at all about like what they're talking about or what they're interested in. Um, it just always kind of confused and annoyed me, that there are just so many uh, stereotypes and thoughts about introverts.
Yeah, it is very frustrating because you're kind of seen as the lesser one of the two, you know. Even though we're all on a spectrum, like not everyone is extremely introverted. Like I'm very, very introverted. And there's some people who are kind of around the middle or, you know, just like slightly more extroverted or slightly more introverted. But it is frustrating because I don't know if you get this, but when I used to be in the office and I was just really quiet and not interacting with people, because I'm in, you know, I told you I'm in meetings all day. So if I get lucky and not have a day with meetings, I prefer to stay in my cubicle the entire time and not talk to anyone. But when that happens, people ask me if I'm okay or if I'm upset or, you know, is everything all right? And it's like, yeah, like, what do you mean?
uh, yeah, I used to get that earlier in my career, because I didn't talk much. Um, but to me, I think in that case, it was split kind of, half of it was because I was an introvert, but also the other half was like, I'm just starting out. So it doesn't really make sense for me to be talking here when I literally have no idea what I'm talking about. I don't want to run a chance of saying something stupid, and then that's just who I am for the rest of my career. Um, but yeah, I've gotten, are you okay? I actually had someone walk up to me. I was actually doing my work in my cubicle, and the gentleman, he walks past me and he stops and he walks up to my cubicle and he says, "Hey Jay, like, do you ever talk?" Like, and I look at him like, "Yeah, I'm just a quiet dude." But I could literally see like he's just so confused that there's this person that doesn't talk a lot. Like it's I can't even describe it.
Just
It's
dumbfounded.
like, yeah, it's like, because I can see like he was like I can see that he been thinking about this for a while, and it was really heavy on his heart, and and he just had to ask me. I guess he had never encountered someone who just
Doesn't
didn't
talk.
talk, talk. um, but as I progressed in my career, one, I just learned to be myself. Like I realized that I'm gonna be a quiet person. I talk when I have something to say. I just made sure that the work got done, and I was fortunate that I had managers and bosses who understood that I'm not a talker, or
Hmm.
I talk when I have something to say, which and when I do talk, I typically know what I'm talking about. Um, so they were really they understood that that's just how I am, but also I kind of set myself on a path, a career path where I wanted to be in management. So managers, you got to talk to somebody
Yeah.
at some point, particularly if you're a manager, if you're going to be a manager of people, not just a manager of projects. Project manager can probably get away to a degree when not really talking, but I was on a management path and I actually had staff at one point, so I just had to learn how to channel and reserve that energy, and then kind of use the time in my cubicle in my office to recharge. Um, but it's funny that I'm in every job I've had, I've probably been the most quiet or introverted person, but in my last couple of jobs, I was like the main one giving teachings and lessons and trainings to large groups of people in my organization. Um, so I, I definitely haven't gotten more extroverted. I've just gotten better at kind of managing my energy and kind of just trying to get out of that introvert comfort zone. But I definitely I definitely understand uh, how it is that, in the work environment to just have someone not understand how someone can be so quiet.
Yeah. I luckily I work from home now since the pandemic, so I haven't really had to worry about that much. Um but I'm like the opposite where I do keep to myself a lot and I'm very quiet, but man, someone comes to my cubicle and they start talking to me, I can talk for like an hour. And sometimes I'm like, don't come here to my desk. It's a trap. Like, don't be fooled by my quiet nature.
Yeah, that actually ended up happening between my boss and I, like my last really in the last couple of years, and until I moved across country. When I was, I worked and lived in California, but uh, we actually just I would walk into his office or he would walk into mine, and we would end up talking for like an hour about everything. Um, typically end up talking about sports, but he would just run the gamut of just anything. I don't know how we got work done, but we got work done in between.
I think that's the thing though, like the stereotype or like the misconception is that introverts don't like talking, but it just depends on the setting, the person, and the topic, you know? Like if we're in a group of people, like I can be pretty quiet when it's in a group of people. Like I have my regular friend group and we've been friends for years and we always meet up, and when it's like one on one, it's so easy to talk the whole time for me. But when we're in a group, I kind of like step back, or I listen more than I talk. But like just recently, my we went on a road trip with my friends. It was my friend's 30th, and I say recently, but this episode's not going to air for a while. But sometime earlier this year, I went on a road trip, and it was the four of us. But on our way home, I was the one driving, and then I had my friend next to me, and our other two friends were in the back sleeping. So it was just me and him, and we literally talked all the way. And it was like from like SoCal to NorCal, so it's like a good 4 hour trip,
Oh
and
my.
we talked like literally the whole entire time.
Nice.
Yeah, but it's just like I said, it just depends on who it is, and uh, it is a misconception that we don't talk. We choose when to talk.
Yeah, and we don't like being forced to talk.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just not. We don't like it. We don't like being put in a situation where it's just pressure to talk for the sake of talking. It just, to me at least, it just feels fake, and it's like a waste of time. Like,
Yeah,
I don't care about your cat. Or, like, like I don't really care about your kids. I'm sure they're cool. They're awesome.
mm.
Little Timmy has got his first tooth in. Awesome. But that's just not that's just not on my list of things to do today.
Yeah.
Um,
Small talk is killer. I can't. That's one of the things I don't from miss at the office. Is like we had a pretty small break room, and I'm one of those early people. I like to get there early before everyone gets there, and then I leave before everyone leaves. Like try to have that quiet time. And so in the mornings I do like make breakfast and tea, whatever, in the break room. And I just remember someone asking me uh what my favorite oatmeal was, because he knows I was eating oatmeal, and like where did I buy my oatmeal and what flavor it is. And I knew he was just doing that because we're in the break room together, and he was just trying to fill the silence. But I'm just like, dude, just it's okay, just stand here in silence. I know you don't actually care.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with silence.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that at all. Builds character.
Yeah.
Just stand there, be alone in your thoughts,
Yeah.
work stuff
Yeah.
out in your head.
And I think it's weird. I mean, I'm sure it's an introvert thing. And I'm sure extroverts think it's weird if it's just silence. But for me, I think it's weird that someone can't stand in silence. Like there has to be some type of sound, or they're humming, or they're asking like small talk questions. They're just trying to fill the air.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm at me personally, I'm just at a point in my life where um, I match energy. So, someone asks, "How come I don't talk more? I don't talk more?" I say, "How come you don't talk less?" It's just like you ever tried not talking as much? Try it. You might like it. You know, and that moves them along. Actually,
Oh, okay.
yeah, because they understand that that particular discussion isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
So, it is not not me trying to be rude. It's just you know we don't try to change or force extroverts out of their comfort zone, but it always seems like we have to get out of ours, or like I said before, something's wrong with us, and we have to get on on the right path. Maybe there's more than one path to be successful.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like that's why um I love what you're doing with your shirts and your clothes. And that's why I made my podcast all about, being an introvert, and because it's such a big part of who I am and my personality, and it's a big part of the choices I make every day too, because it is linked to your energy and how you go about yourself in your day and all that stuff. And it really does suck how we are in such a society where, it's so favored to be a salesperson, like you got to be your own salesperson. You got to hype yourself up. You got to, brand yourself. You got to be this and that. And it's so exhausting. It's like, why can't it, why is it not okay to just, I don't know, not be so like a socialite? Because man, networking is not fun.
No, no, it is. It is not. It's not. Um, yeah, I
And there's
probably
so
have it like
many.
one. There is, but I probably have it a slight step above small talk because at least networking is some sort of purpose, I guess. Um, but it still feels like punishment,
Mm-hmm.
and I just wonder like, what did I do to deserve such punishment? I don't know, but but I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know it's a weird world we live in, where I also think it's a big part of um like us being or having to be like our own salesperson. I think it's also just part of like our move from blue collar work. Like back in the day, it's a lot of like labor intensive stuff, before technology and um before like social media. Like now everybody and their mom wants to be an influencer or a
Yeah.
YouTuber or a TikTok star. And those things require you to have like high energy and have content constantly, and you're spewing stuff all the time, and you just have to be on all the time. Whereas back then, you're either a farmer or a blacksmith or you're a homesteader, like, you know what I mean? And all of those things are not very social things. Like when you think of being a social person, it's like mostly, I don't know. I don't even know. Cause even like tribal communities, yeah, they work together, but like everyone has their own job, and you don't have to be a salesperson because you're a community that work together, if that makes sense. But now
That
you're like
does.
fighting for, you're fighting for a position. You're fighting to be the best influencer, the best YouTuber, the best TikTok dancer, or something like that, you know? So I think that's why our societies has moved kind of towards that extroverted world, because you got to be like me, look at me. Because if you don't, then you're going to be left in the background, and you may not get hired for that job or whatever you're trying to do.
Well, it's funny. Like I'm curious to know though, like how many of these uh, social media platforms are actually run by introverts. Because you think like I think Mark Zuckerberg is an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
That Bill Gates isn't really a social media person, but um, still one of the richest people on the planet. Very much introverted. But I'm curious. Heads of Twitter and uh, Instagram, TikTok. I wonder if they're actually more introverted than we think.
I probably, because you do hear about um because that goes back to like kind of like you I'm trying to think of a oh okay, so I sorry, my brain is it's taking a while to get there. It's a really stressful day. um But I remember this interview of Nicki Minaj where I don't know why I did hers specifically, but someone asked her what does she like to do like on her day off. And she said that on her day off, she actually really just likes eating ice cream, sitting on the couch and like watching TV or like watching a movie. Like she doesn't people, they see this persona. She like loves to be very, theatrical and very like out there with her like her fashion and her look and her makeup and same with like every other famous person. But on her actual time where she gets to choose what she wants to do, she chooses to like be home and not like be out in a club, be out, like what other, what we think all famous
Uh-huh.
people do. And I think that's so interesting because she built this persona that seems very extrovert, very out there, very social. But in reality, she's probably an introvert, like the way she explained what she liked to do.
Yeah, I would believe that. Uh, yeah, I, I, I honestly think a lot of, like you said, a lot of famous people, celebrities, are probably more introverted than we think.
Hmm.
Um, but it doesn't seem that way because, like you said, all we get is that persona that they put out there. Because staying home eating ice cream doesn't sell records. So,
Yeah, like no one wants to watch that,
yeah, like no one wants to see Nicki Minaj eating ice cream unless she's twerking while eating ice cream. And like so, and wearing something very suggestive. That's
Yeah.
that's probably the only time we'd be interested in seeing her eat ice cream. But yeah, you just and I guess that's just kind of the nature of the business, I guess. And I mean, it does make sense to some degree. Like you have to market yourself if you want to
Hmm.
be, if you want people to see your body of work. Um, the downside is that, yeah, in this kind of extrovert driven world, that persona gets associated with a lot of qualities that people think are extrovert or extroverted qualities. So they think that you're naturally an extrovert. Um, I don't know. I don't know if that can ever be me. That I just don't know if I can ever develop that kind of persona where people think that I'm extroverted just all the time. Like life's just one big party. I don't think I can ever do that.
No, definitely not. Like that's why I don't do the recording, like the video recordings when I do my podcast, because like I'm not gonna get dressed up and I'm not gonna do my hair. And my hair is very difficult, like to maintain. Right now, it's kind of well, whatever. It's puffy and wavy at the same time. Um, and I do remember talking to someone. He's one of the people that I interviewed, and he was saying like, do you have any advice on how to connect to like the younger generation or how to spread um the podcast? And I said, I don't do that stuff because it's not part of my personality and who I am to be constantly like out there promoting, making reels, making posts all the time. It's just it takes a lot of energy from me, and I do this as a hobby. It's not my business and I don't make money out of it. And I know like, if you really want it to be like big and you really want it to reach a ton of people, unfortunately that is kind of what you want to do, because he didn't want to do all that stuff either. But there's like a certain demographic he wanted, and I was like a younger demographic, and I was like, well, I think you already know, like the younger demographics, they love TikTok, they love Instagram reels, they love Snapchat. Apparently Snapchat's coming back. And
Okay.
yeah, and so like you kind of have to go to those platforms to reach people. And people like there's already a science about it. Like people like videos, people like seeing your face, people like if you look good. Like And so you kind of have to make that persona. But for me, like, I want to try, like, just like you, like, I don't want to be somebody else. Like, I want to be my authentic self, and my authentic self isn't always high energy. And I have an RBF. So if I do make TikTok videos, like, I'm not going to look very nice, you know? And I barely put makeup on. I went to a wedding recently and had makeup on. And before that, I don't even know from the last time I did my makeup or my hair. So
Yeah, but
that's a real.
you're so right. I mean, uh, you have to be authentic, and you have to be your authentic self. And I think that's kind of one thing that introverts, we can pick up on that if you're trying to be something or someone you're not, because it just feels off.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we don't do that. We have to be ourselves. I have to be myself. I own my own business, so I have to promote and advertise and draw attention to myself, which is can be uncomfortable. But I understand I understand the reason behind it, but I also have to be myself, and I also have to advertise, you know, in a way that an introvert would. So when you see my reels, you're not going to see me doing a whole bunch of dancing and and flipping and whatever else people do on the reels in TikTok. All my reels are introvert related. They highlight introvert situations and introvert thoughts because that's who I am. That's my authentic self. Um, I'm not twerking, folks. It's not happening.
Yeah, no.
No, that's not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you are your authentic self, because I've seen your reels and your posts on Instagram, and it is, a lot of them are funny because they are very, related to introverts. And I do like it's not crazy, like high energy, like, people are yelling and smash that like button, blah blah, like all crazy. But yours aren't like that, and I appreciate that, because just seeing people be so extremely extra, and that they're probably not like that in real life, they're just doing that to like grab your attention, it exhausts me. Like, I'm instantly tired when I see someone do that.
Exactly. You get tired
It's like,
watching this
no.
thing. Just like, whew,
Yeah.
I need a nap. That was a
Yeah.
lot. that 7 seconds took it out of me. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yes, just, but you are
Exactly.
so right though. That yeah. Um, I mean, I try to add a little, make it somewhat entertaining. Hopefully, somewhat educational for the extroverts. Again, give them a little peek behind the curtain for introverts. But I also, my personality, I don't take myself that seriously. Um, so I can't make a serious, like a real serious, or stereotypically serious introvert reel. Like I just can't do that because that's not who I am. So I just try to show things through, a humorous side where it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um, so how do you come up with the sayings?
You want the secret sauce.
So they're really good, like, oh, that's witty.
So I've always I I realized a long time ago that I'm good with snappy wordplay. I've always liked words and kind of putting them together and seeing how they look in the same sentences, and then sometimes I'll just say something off the top of my head, um, and people just bust out laughing. I guess I'm funny. Okay, I was just being honest. Like I was just being honest. Um, but I just kind of took stock. I started just paying attention to that, and then when I decided that I actually wanted to get into the t-shirt game, I kind of realized that, I'm introverted. I'm good with these words. I'm not good or as good, drawing stuff. Um, so I kind of just went with the words, and I a lot of it just comes from my life, just dealing with you know typical introvert issues and problems and adventures. Ideas come to me really any time of the day. Like I'll be out for a walk and I'll just think of something. Um, I was actually making content today, and while I was making that content, I got the idea for something else. So now I have a new idea for a design that might be coming out soon. We'll see.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
but they just come, and it's good because I actually was, and I'm sure other creators probably they get worried. Where's the next piece of whatever going to come from? So I just started writing stuff down. Like I got several like books and notes of kind of just any idea that I have. I write it down. Um, Maybe it's good, maybe it's not, but it's there. So yeah, I can say with confidence that what you see so far on the side of my reels is probably maybe 10% of just all the ideas that I've had. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so stay tuned, folks.
Yeah.
People out there in podcast land. Yeah.
Do you know, like, I don't know if you get like, stats back on your shirt sales or whatever, but is there a favorite amongst all of them? Like, is there one that you sold like more of than anything else?
Yes. So there are a couple. One of my favorites is called "Silence is My Love Language."
Oh, okay.
I think that is actually the love language of introverts. Silence. Not just because we don't like to talk, but because we like to listen.
Hmm.
And you can't listen if you're talking. That's a note for for the extroverts in the audience. Try sometime. But we're very good listeners, and to me, I show I show that I'm engaged, and that I actually care by listening, because listening helps me understand, and it helps me formulate questions to further the discussion. So um, that's kind of how I came up with that design, so that's a very popular one that sells. Got that in several colors. The other one is very simple. Not today. Sincerely an introvert. It just it's just
I like that
yeah.
one.
Just sometimes we're not feeling it. We just can't do it. So got a shirt have a shirt for you. Don't even have to say it. Just wear the shirt. Not today. So those are a couple of the more popular ones. There's a third one that's kind of starting to pick up. It's called kind of social, kind of not. Should be
Okay.
the that's probably the introvert model, and I think that actually I think that defines who and what an introvert is. A lot of times, introverts get labeled as antisocial, which I don't agree with. Um,
Hmm.
Introverts can be very social. Like I said before, if you get this on the right topic, we can't shut up. It depends on who we're comfortable with and who we're comfortable around.
Hmm.
Um, but then there are other times where we just not feeling it. So we're kind of social, kind of not.
I like that one.
Uh,
That was
yeah,
very
and
subtle.
thank you. And also, I've gotten a lot of interest on that one from extroverts. So kind of crosses over there.
Okay. Yeah, I could see extroverts getting that one too because that's a misconception for extroverts that they always want to go to a party or always want to
Mm-hmm.
go out, always want to do this and that. And that's not always true. Cause like, again, we're on a spectrum. And so they could be like more in the middle or more on the extroverted side, but there's still a balance. Like at some point you do, for everybody, you need to take a break and like spend time alone. Even, it just depends on how long you want to spend time alone. But I think
Yeah.
everybody needs it at some
You
point.
you can't talk all day, can you? All day? All day.
There's no. You got to use the bathroom at some point. You got
At
to
some
drink some
point.
water and breathe.
Yes. It's just
But I like the silence is my love language. Oh,
mm-hmm.
that's a good one. Because listening really is an activity that has to be practiced. And fortunately for introverts, it does come a little easier. But, there's definitely still introverts out there that really need to learn how to listen.
Correct. Yes.
But it is something that you actively have to actually practice. Like people may think they're a good listener, but, if you're constantly in a conversation with somebody just waiting to respond and you're not actually like taking in the words, listening to the words, you're not actively listening. You're just waiting for that person to end so that you can say something, so you can respond,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
I mean, it's perfect sense. There's a difference between listening and waiting to talk. And unfortunately, a lot of people just wait to talk.
Mm-hmm.
You have to. Listening is intentional. It's purposeful. You can't accidentally listen. You have to-
Yeah. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work like that. No, like it's something that you actually have to make a choice to do.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what makes us tired. Like what makes that drains our social meter too, is because it does take focus and work to listen to the person, and it does create a different kind of conversation if you're able to actively listen to. I think it creates more meaningful conversations because especially if both people can, if they can properly listen to each other.
Most definitely.
Yeah, I think it's a great conversation because then if you don't, or if it's only one person active listening, it's like really the conversation's like one sided,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Let me ask you this: you know, have you ever been, or has someone been talking to you and you're listening, and then like you ask them a question, and it's like you can tell that either like they've never been asked that question before, or even not worse, but in a more extreme case, they're not used to being asked questions. It's like they're still used to just talking and then having the person respond. Um, it just kind of throws them for a loop. Like I've had that happen so many times. I'm wondering if that's ever happened to you.
That actually happened with one of I mean, I don't know how often it happens and people just don't say anything, but it happened in one of the podcasts that I was doing, that I was hosting. And my guest on that podcast, like, I really like the question that you asked because it actually, like, the questions that you ask actually means that you are paying attention and that you're actually interested in the conversation. And when that person said that, I was like, do people not do that? Like, do people not ask you like proper questions? Like, I don't understand. But yeah, yeah, it happens.
Yeah, it's just like yeah, it used to throw me, but now I just like yeah, thank you. Just,
Yeah.
but yeah, like listening has to be intentional. Um, and I mean, if you're not going to listen, like why are you having a discussion? You sound like you just want to talk. So like just talk. Like,
Yeah.
like um,
I think people who don't want to listen, or not that they don't want to, but aren't like as interested or as good as it at it, I think they just want to talk,
yeah,
And I think sometimes they're not really interested in the other person. They just want someone to talk to and someone to listen to them, which is
Mm,
sometimes, like if you're a therapist, like, that's the whole point. You're supposed to talk to them and they're supposed to listen. But when you're having a conversation, like I said, it makes it very one sided. Like I was at a wedding, I think a couple years ago now, and it was like with a lot of people I haven't seen in a long time or people I just met, and I like to ask the good question. Like, I don't know if I want to say the good questions, but the more like open-ended questions, like not more than just like how you're doing or like, how do you know the bride and the groom, but like more about them, getting to know them kind of questions, more like, conversational questions where we can do back and forth. But some of the people I talk to, they'll answer the question, but then they don't even ask you to like contribute. So you got like nothing to respond to. So it's a lot of me just like, I felt like I was interviewing them basically, but they loved answering the question. They just didn't reciprocate.
mhm. Some people just like to talk.
Yeah.
Um,
And I mean, it's fine, I guess, but it just kind of makes it a boring conversation for the other person.
Definitely. Yeah, and again, we don't have, or at least I don't have the energy to do that. Like, I don't like talking anyways. I'm gonna just keep asking questions and not getting anything in return. Nah, can't do it. Um, but I was just thinking, you know, we're good listeners, but sometimes that can be draining as well. Because when people
hmm
find out that you're a good listener, oh, oh my God, they they want to talk to you, because you're a good listener. You're a good, a good sounding board, or whatever, and like that can be very draining because it's like, you ain't done yet, sir. You just want to tell me a whole life story. All right, it's 8:07 a.m. This
Oh my god.
on a on a Tuesday. All right, you're just all right. We just want to get into all of it today. All right. Um, at least therapists get paid mostly.
Right?
It's like you ain't even give me a cookie or nothing. Just launch right
Yeah,
into
give
it.
me
All right.
breakfast.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think it's cuz it's rare, you know? It's rare to find a good listener, and once you find it, you got to snatch it up.
Mm-hmm. It's just. Mm-mm. But yeah, I honestly find myself getting more drained by listening than actually having to talk. Because like there are people who know that I'm a good listener and know that I will ask, or I do ask, good questions. But yeah, it can be a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I feel like I worked out for 2 hours. All I did was just sit there and listen.
Yeah, your brain had to work out. Yeah, I agree cuz my favorite podcast episodes I've done have always been like conversational style, like conversation style, um, conversational. Sorry, I'm
There you go.
telling you, my brain is not working today. But I love this because there's the back and forth. It's engaging. It's interesting. Like I'm interested, the person's interested, and so it's not as energy draining as like having to be the one always listening, and you're just doing you're mm-hmm, right, okay, like that, just, and you're only doing that just to like let them know. It's just a social cue to let them know that you're listening, but it's, yeah, so I get that it's draining, and actual conversations aren't as draining, and sometimes they're energizing,
Yes.
especially if it's interesting. Alrighty. Well, we are reaching the hour mark, but I don't want to like end the podcast without first asking if there's anything else you want to talk about, or a message you want to share to, to the fellow introverts and extroverts. I'm sure maybe I got extroverts out there listening as well. Maybe if you're interested, in listening to an introverted person,
They're always
because
lurking
there's a
around
lot.
there somewhere.
Yeah.
It's just they are. We see you guys. It's all right. We love you anyway.
Yeah.
There's no hate over here.
So, any last message you want to send to the audience, and also like let the audience know where they can find you?
All right. Well, I think it's two things. One, visit my website, sincerelyandintrovert.com, for the latest and greatest and introverted inspired apparel. Like I said before, we got t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, hoodies, and sweatshirts. It's currently hoodie season, so grab you a nice comfy hoodie for yourself or for the introvert in your life. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram, same name, at Sincerely an Introvert. I'm on TikTok, but I'm trying to figure out how that works. So don't follow me there just yet, unless you want to. If you want to, it's sincerely _and_introvert, because TikTok is extra. It's just is. Send me a DM or send me a message, and I love to hear from you. Particularly, if you have any questions about any of the merchandise, or like I said before, just want insight into the introvert mind. Now that my marketing spill has gone, get into the actual what I want to say, and this is really to all the introverts out there: is just stay introverted. I've been saying that the last few months, and it's really, it's not just for you, it's for me as well. It's just kind of a daily reminder to stay introverted, always be yourself. There is nothing wrong with being introverted. Some of the most successful people on this planet are actually introverts. So I say if you are introverted, you're actually uniquely set up to be successful in whatever it is that you choose to do. So take advantage of it, embrace it. That's all I got.
Awesome. Thank you. That was an amazing message. And thank you so much for saying all that. And thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for making it to the end. If you enjoy what you hear and want to stay up to date on the show, please follow me on Facebook and or on Instagram. You can also check out my website at thetalkativeintrovertpodcast.com. All the information will be on there, as well as in the show notes. If you want to help support the show, please review and rate the podcast and share it with your friends and family. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you guys in the next episode.